Hey buddies, Mr. Pugly here, and today we're back with a Borderlands 3 video, and today we're going to be showing a community build that allows you to essentially deal infinite damage with a single interaction that we'll get into in a few moments. As you can see on the screen, we're able to kill all these bosses really easily. And a big shout out to the member Cowiefour who actually submitted this build. And yes, you heard me right, I said a couple of key things there: submitted and community build. Today will be the start of the series community builds, where essentially I ask you, the community, to submit builds to me and then I'll showcase them on the channel. It doesn't have to be a very good build, it just has to be your favorite build, and pretty much it's just that simple. If you want to, you could submit your build by direct messaging me, put in the comments whatever you'd like. Personally, I would like a Discord message, so our Discord link will be linked on the top right of the video, of course, in the comments description as well. But of course, before we get into the meat and potatoes of this build, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and follow me on Twitch on the top right. You have no idea how much helps me out. And let's get into the video.
Legendary? Whoa! No way, dude!
So if you're a big Moze fan like me, you might already know what interaction we're actually talking about. And of course, we're going to be talking about Minesweeper. Now, Minesweeper has been a staple in a lot of Moze builds. It allows you to get easy cheese damage. But if you aren't aware, Minesweeper can be comboed with a ability in the blue tree by the name of Pull the Holy Pin. Pull the Holy Pin essentially allows your grenades to hit a crit, which thus allows your Minesweeper grenades that spawn off of crits also have a chance to crit. And then if it crits, it has that 25% chance to drop another grenade, essentially infinitely looping. If you guys are a Wonderlands fan, this sounds a lot like Contagion infinite looping, which it for the most part kind of is. The only key things to note is that the micro grenades do not get any crit damage, but they do get splash grenade damage, as well as firing a skag den. And firing a skag den is a huge part of any Moze build, which allows you to essentially make any splash damage on max mayhem level deal around like 50 times more damage, more or less. It might be 40 something. Either way, we're not talking about the math and specifics on this video because we're really going to be showing Cowiefour's build right here. Now keep in mind, since this is a community build, I did not make any input on this build at all. So there's some changes that you think should be made to the build. You can put it in the comments down below to help the community member that actually posted this. Let's actually get into what makes this build tick. First things first, we have a Sandhawk. Now the Sandhawk is primarily our bossing weapon. He did mention that you can use other weapons for mobbing, mainly due to the fact that Sandhawk can run out of ammo a little bit quicker than other weapons in the game. But of course, we have some nifty ammo regen in this build to allow you to essentially use the Sandhawk for mobbing as well. I found on an occasion I'll run out of ammo mid-mobbing, but of course, since we have the ammo regen, you can kind of keep firing even if you are out of ammo flat, because ammo regen puts it into the magazine as opposed to reserve, so you can kind of play like that if you'd like. Personally, I was a bit partial to swapping to a plasma coil just because, you know, it's splash damage, it synergizes with Moze pretty well. Now you might be noticing that we're using an Iron Cub active. Weapon damage is increased by 150%. Anointment, that means this is an Iron Cub build, so you're going to be seeing some other anointments that are synergizing with Iron Cub itself. Which brings us to our next item, our Cloning Maddening Tracker. Now, the Cloning Maddening Tracker is, to no surprise, a really good grenade on essentially any Moze build because it allows us to keep us alive with the Vampire. Every single time it explodes, we restore some of our missing HP, which is awesome for health gate spam. And Cloning Maddening Tracker is considered one of the best grenades to do that with, if not the best. It has, while action skill is active, grenade damage is increased by 150%, which is going to allow our interaction to deal a lot of damage. And next we move on over to our Old God. Now, Old God increases our fire damage by 20%, which is really good because of the fact that firing a skag den makes all our splash damage deal fire damage additionally as well, which means Old God is going to be boosting our firing skag den a lot. Has after exiting Iron Bear, which also works when Iron Cub expires. We get Iron Cub essentially back quicker by increasing our cooldown rate. Next we have our Minesweeper, which as mentioned before is the key part of this build. It has secondary stats, weapon critical hit damage, splash damage, and grenade damage. The critical hit damage that you'll be noticing on other things on this build, namely the artifacts, since that's the only item left, is really to allow our chains to start off with a big bang. The higher our initial crit damage is, the less amount of loops that the Minesweeper needs to go through to essentially deal the big damage to allow us to get the kill. So more crit damage is really key, as well as splash damage and grenade damage. Next we have a Doll Company Man to allow our Sandhawk to deal tons of damage. He also recommended using a Pearl of Ineffable Knowledge, which I have right here, but the main artifact is the Doll Company Man because we get Doll crit damage, Doll magazine size, and Doll damage, as well as our secondary stats, reload speed, magazine size, and fire rate, which is awesome. We got lots of magazine size, which allows our ammo regen to be through the roof when we are firing, which allows us to fire for a prolonged period of time as opposed to other instances when using the Sandhawk where you stop firing after maybe like 2 seconds. Now, if you're familiar with my Borderlands 3 builds videos, you know it's tradition after looking at the items, we do a quick mobbing showcase and then we'll get into the skill tree. So after we kill the Valkyrie squad, we will go into the skill tree in just a bit. So let's actually see what the build can do on mobbing, since you already saw a great showcase on the bossing capability, and a little bit on how the build actually flows. So essentially you want to get your Iron Cub out there ASAP, because we have a lot of abilities that allows our Iron Cub to stay out there as long as possible. And primarily you just have to look for aiming at headshots, crit spots, everything like that to allow your Minesweeper chains to deal tons of damage. But the Sandhawk is pretty powerful by itself, so even if you get body shots, you're going to obviously get easy kills, as I'm showing off right here. Now, since we have the cloning manning tracker, which allows our survivability to be up, I like to get it out, but we also have the Moze ability, means of destructions, of course, which means that while we have these explosions happening, we're going to see our ammo regen pretty significantly faster, because more explosions on screen means more procs of means of destruction despite its internal cooldown. I believe it has an internal cooldown. I haven't played this game in quite a bit. But as you can see right here, we're primarily able to kill any enemy that comes in our way. And of course, since we have that one ability which allows us to throw grenades in a fight for our life, we can also do that if needed. Now, while our Iron Cub's out there, he's also going to be debuffing enemies because he has the ability of soft targeting, which allows us to deal essentially extra damage whenever he deals damage to people, which is awesome. A key thing that I forget to do a lot on this build is try not to reload as much as possible, because we are going to get ammo regen not into our reserves, but instead into our magazines. So you can kind of forget about reloading for the most part. If you do reload, you're going to see yourself in a situation where you're going to run out of a lot of ammo in your reserves a little bit quicker than necessary. So you kind of want the gun to reload on itself if needed, or allow it to regen, as you can see here on the bottom right. And as you can see here, Iron Cub is still out there. We got him out there at the beginning of the fight, or I guess the entire takedown, and we still have him out here, and we'll probably still have him out here for the Valkyrie squad, which means all of our anointments are still active, which is very great. And then finally, we just need to do a couple of shots on the Valkyrie squads here to get them out of their first phase, and right there. Now our Iron Cub is gone, but because we have that anointment to allow our Iron Cub to be quicker as we get kills, we will see our Iron Cub come back in just a few moments after we kill a couple of these guys. But even when Iron Cub's not out, you can still kill enemies pretty significantly fast. As you see here, here's a boss and we're still going to be able to kill him in just a few seconds without our anointments active. So you don't necessarily need to have Iron Cub out there to deal the bulk of your damage. Of course, you want to have it out there if you want to deal the maximum amount of damage, but it's not quite necessary, which is always nice to see. A build able to essentially run on an efficient manner without it being at its peak performance at all times, if that makes sense. Our Iron Cub is back. I'm going to spawn him back out there, and we just need to clear a couple of these guys, and then we'll essentially be looking pretty at killing the rest of the Valkyrie squads in a few moments here. The third one's coming down, and I just need to do a couple of shots, and he is down now. We just need to kill one more mob wave, and then all the Valkyrie squad's going to come down, and we're going to eliminate them in a few moments, just like how we are eliminating all these enemies in just a few moments whenever they spawn, which is awesome. Now, since all the Valkyrie squad is spawned, I just need to take a few moments to shoot at their back, and they're primarily all dead right there. So as you can see right there, the build is pretty destructive. Unfortunately, like most Moze builds, you do get downed occasionally, but you know, that's to be expected when playing Moze, so it's easy to get back out of your fight for your life, because the bulk of our damage as Moze doesn't get hugely diminished when you're actually in fight for your life, unlike some characters. But you know, that's a discussion for another video. Let's actually get into the skill tree. Now, the skill tree, I will briefly go through. I feel like most of the people who are going to be watching this are people who kind of know Borderlands, so I'm going to briefly go through the key points. So we essentially go all the way down on blue tree to get short fuse, because short fuse is insane. As I said, Fire and Skegden is essential, as well as Pull the Holy Pin. Next we have only 5 points into Red Tree to boost our damage a tiny bit, as well as giving our Iron Cub a little bit of damage reduction. We have all the way down on Green Tree to allow us to get that nifty ammo regen as we were talking about before. So we have infinite ammo when Iron Cub is expired, which is nice utility whenever that happens. But we have a lot of stuff that is boosting our overall damage and magazine size to allow us to get that infinite ammo. More crit damage right here with Scorching RPMs, which is great. You know, you kind of get that with every Moze build, but it gives us more crit damage, which is, you know, essential for the build. We have Rushing Offensive, which is a favorite of mine, which allows you to health gate while you're sprinting, which is a little bit difficult for console players. So we have Best of Both Worlds with Vampire and Rushing Offensive. So 2 options for health gate spam on Moze right there. Clouded Lead, of course. Redistribution to allow us to get more ammo regen. And finally, we go down middle to the Purple Tree, which allows us to get fired up, which allows us to get a significant increase in fire rate, which allows us to increase our total DPS. Overall, the build's pretty good. It runs a classic favorite of mine that allows you to essentially get infinite damage with the Minesweeper. You could essentially get max damage cap with any gun with the Minesweeper combo, so you know, it's never a bad idea to run this on any build. I really like the magazine regen on this build and it being an Iron Cub build, which is pretty unique in my opinion, at least for Minesweeper builds. I'd probably give it a rating of overall 4.5 damage caps out of 5. It's a really fun build to mess around with, and if you want to mess around with it, of course, put the save file down below. Now, this character save doesn't have everything that I necessarily want on a character save, so it's mainly for you to get the items if you're on PC. So if you want that, the save file, of course, will be in the comments or description as a tradition. Once again, if you want to submit a build for me to showcase on the series, please direct message me on Discord the build and items. Preferably it has to be a build made by you. If it's made by someone else, I do have to technically get permission for me to use it, just because I don't want to step on anybody's feet here. But I hope this series is really fun for you. Hopefully you guys liked it. This will be a series I post at least once a week, assuming I don't get too busy on other things. And as always, a big shout out to the members who make these videos possible. We have Clairvoyance, Rick Inglesias, and Cameron. These are the people who support me as little as $5 a month on YouTube or Patreon. And you can also become a member by clicking on the top right or the comments or description. The more members we have, of course, means more videos for you guys, and the sooner I get to becoming full-time. And as always, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I hope you all have a great day. Bye-bye.
And the last shall be first to immerse in a pass out heat, facing him out with a moxie melt till he woke up drowning in tchotchke hell. War in a cave with a torch on a wall, then a window arrangement of porcelain dolls.